Hey guys, this is Bill from Linden, Tennessee. Here is a long overdue update for you. I suppose the first thing I'll talk about, and probably the most exciting thing that's happened since the last update, where I talked about how I got this power steering unit installed, is that I got this power steering unit hooked up. And so here I am turning the wheel. It's pretty hard to turn the wheel. Now I'm going to turn the key on. Vacuum pump comes on for a second. You can't hear it, but there's some clicks and stuff. Now I'm turning the wheel, and it's actually quite easy. So it's impressively easy, actually. And these are some pretty big tires turning on just concrete. Now I don't have the weight of the batteries up there. That'll have an effect once it's actually done, but it's, as far as I can guesstimate or try to remember, it's as much power assist as the hydraulic system had from the MR2. So I'm very pleased with that, and it's very quiet. And yeah, so one thing I forgot to do is, you see I got that little piece of clear tubing on there. All that's doing is just circulating the fluid, the power steering fluid that's in the steering gearbox. And when I was testing this thing out, I didn't have that on there. And as soon as you turn the wheel, like, fluid goes everywhere. So if you do something like this, be sure to put a recirculating tube on there so you don't make a big old mess. But otherwise, I've been working on the interior. I got all the carpet in. All this carpet is from a company called Bedrug. They're fantastic. This carpet kit is fantastic. This is the third carpet kit that I went through. If you go on like extreme terrain and Quadratech and all that stuff, there are just lots of carpet kits for Wranglers, and they all say that they're formed and they're used molds and they're just a drop-in. That's not true. With the exception of this one, the other ones are just horrible. One of them, there's like a rubber backing on the back of it that holds the felted material, sort of holds it together. The rubber backing the machine must have just run out of glue at the factory or something, and it was just very poorly applied, and there was even holes gone through the carpet. It was terrible. Quadratech's very good though about returning, and they allowed me to return it, and I bought a different kit from a different company from them, and it was equally as bad. The backing was good and the carpet material was okay, but on these parts here, you see this is like this sort of complicated compound curve, and I guess they have a big press that's sort of shaped like the bed of a Jeep. And they put their material in this press and they press it down with some heat, I'm sure, and they go ahead and they form it to the shape of that. But what they don't do is they don't shrink or stretch the material. So, it's kind of like if you just put a shirt in a in a thing like that, it would it would wrinkle, and it did. It was really bad. It was badly wrinkled. It was stupid. So I sent it back also, and Quadratech once again was very good and gave me my money back. This time, the third time, I went with a company called Bedrug, and that's just based on a YouTube video where all they did was just plopped it into the truck and it worked fine. And I agree. That's exactly what happened. And how about that? They even had a kit for if you've converted your car to electric using a Tesla battery bank and you've used the back seat area as your battery box. Isn't that amazing? No, they didn't do that. What would have originally happened was this piece here would have gone the full length of the bed and then tucked down behind the seats there. So all I did was just kind of laid it here, folded it up, sort of marked where it goes, cut it, had my wife put some binding on the outside, and just kind of finished it off. It looks fabulous. On the sides here, I had to do a little cutout here to go around this hinge or around this cable. Normally that wouldn't be there. There'd be a mechanism for the latch assembly, and there's a big cutout, a big hole right here. And I just sort of took some pieces of leftover carpet and copy and paste a filler thing for that. Same thing over here. So it looks really good. I'm so happy with it. And I went to Walmart.com and like just got some speaker, they call it speaker cloth, that would normally go on a subwoofer or something like that, and it may end up going on a subwoofer. And the picture online made it look like it was the same color, and I'll be damned if it wasn't. I mean, it's just, it's just so good. So that was a lucky find, and I don't know, there's about 4 yards of that stuff, so it's probably enough for 2 Jeeps. But anyway, so that'll cover this top deck area, and it'll cover the mounting rack, the mounting board that I have for the amplifiers, and it'll finish that off pretty nice. So that's cool. I'm excited about that. Another thing that I did, I had to make this one too. This was cut out of the, the part that was up there in the front. Originally, it was that piece, and you can see that there's a, cutout there for the hinge or something, and a cutout over there for the. Well, anyway, that wasn't going to work. So cut this piece out. Had my wife bind that for me, and we put some Velcro on the back of it, and then the kit comes with stick-on Velcro that goes on the truck. So that's pretty awesome. Then I finished this up. These, originally, there would have been these crazy little latches, these dudes right here. They would have sat roughly there, and they swing up and down, and they, just sort of grab onto that lip, onto that, of the bed there. And that's what holds the tailgate up. Now, obviously it's not secure, but I'm not too concerned about that. What I don't like about it, it was just, I don't know, it just didn't seem right. It was not, it didn't seem very professional. Just, it's like, oh, I don't know how to close this, lock this thing, so let's just put some latches that hold it. So, so I didn't do that. So back when I was stationed in England, I did a resto mod of a 1962 Land Rover, and I always liked the way that they secured their tailgates. And they use these fabulous little latches here. They just got this sort of a cam on the inside of it, and you flip it up like that, and then push it down, and then it holds it tight, and it's secure. And I guess you could even put a lock in there if you wanted to have some security. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so that part's done. I'm excited about that. And so I guess now the next thing on the list, let's go this way. The next thing on the list is tackling the wiring. I've got my TC Controls control board for the drive unit, which is, by the way, back in there. Last time it was out sitting on the bench because I had gone to surgery. I wasn't able to finish putting that back together. So that's all back together and installed, and I hope it's not as noisy as the one before, but I have a feeling it's going to be. I've got this is the factory wiring harness for a Tesla drive unit. The EV Controls control board uses the wiring colors for the Tesla drive unit, and that's how they integrate that. There's a few things that are different. The 6 wires that come off of the accelerator pedal all feed directly into the drive unit, and like the brake on or off from the brake pedal when you push your brakes on, that goes into the EV Controls module, as the forward and reverse, that goes into the module. And then the module has a signal that goes out to your reverse lights or your brake lights for regen, and it also has little lights for like an indicator if you have a drive or neutral or reverse indicator. And so that's that. So I've got to wire all that stuff in. And the other thing I need to do is this. This is a Brusa NLG 513. These were originally in Ford Transits, and who knows what else they've been in, but they were a Swedish company back in the, the 2010s, I guess. They don't make these things anymore. But this is what I had in this. I'm talking about the red thing here, by the way. This is what I had in my Ranger, and it's just a really reliable, let's see, good form factor. It's very small and compact. It's air cooled, which is nice. I don't want to have to worry about water cooling on it. The fans are noisy, which is awesome, because then you can know that the thing's charging. If it's not charging, the fans won't be on. So whenever you plug it into J1772, the fans start up, and you know it's going. And if you come out later on and the fans are still going, you know it's still charging. So it's kind of a dummy's indicator that the thing is working. And in front of that, I got an ElCon 1200 watt DCDC converter. And so yeah, so this is what I should have done in the first place. Always go with your guts. Always go with your gut feeling. Have 2 components to do 2 things. Don't have 1 component to do 2 things. It's like, don't buy a Swiss Army knife. Buy a knife and buy some scissors and buy tweezers. Like, with the exception of smartphones, this is Bill's opinion here, with the exception of smartphones, there's really nothing that's ever been made that does more than one thing well. Like I had a friend of mine had one of those 6x6 Argo things, and they're theoretically cool because, like, hey, it's a boat and it's also an ATV and you can go anywhere, but in reality, it's a really awful boat that's really slow and noisy, and it's a horrible ATV that's really slow and noisy. So, just can't do that. Get two things to do two things, and that way, if one thing breaks, then you can just replace it. You don't have to replace the whole entire unit. So that's my piece of advice for the day. Got me a little 1/8" piece of plate steel here. This is bolted to it, and this is actually bolted from the bottom to the plate, but that is going to mount right back there. And surprisingly, this isn't a whole heck of a lot bigger than the Stealth EV charger / DCDC controller that I had, so it will fit right in there. The depth is the same and the height is roughly the same, and I think it's going to fit just fine. It's very awkward and cumbersome right now, but I'll take all these components off and then just mount the plate. Come up with my brackets and stuff just to mount the plate, and then put the components back on and mount it all back up in there, and and that'll be cool. And that's on the list. So I guess those are the two big things. And of course, when I put this in there, I have to rewire the whole stinking thing, because the Stealth EV charger DCDC had its own proprietary plugs. And of course, they're not the same as that. They're not the same. So I got to rewire that. And this is a multi-pin connector. It's got this ridiculous back shell that sticks out about 4 inches. It's really stupid. I'm trying to find a different one of those. But yeah, I got to rewire all that. And I'm just going to have this hooked up to, what am I going to have? I don't really know how I'm going to have this thing hooked up to. I think just ignition. Ignition will probably turn on a relay or something, and it'll just have this DC-DC on. And then for the charger, the Brusa charger is theoretically CAN bus controllable, and the Orion BMS theoretically will control it. So I'll try it that way first, and maybe that'll work. And if it doesn't work, this charger is programmable through an XP, a Windows XP laptop. It's kind of an obnoxious program that they use, but it is controllable, or it's programmable, and I can set it to whatever voltages I want it to cut off, and that'll be the end of it. And since there's no water pumps to run or anything, it doesn't matter if if everything just sort of stays on idle. That's probably really confusing. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, whenever the charge is done, this thing just stops charging, and you unplug it, and then the EVSE on the wall will turn off. But I'm rambling now, sorry. Okay, I think I've run out of things to talk about, and I ramble when I run out of things to talk about. So, yeah. So, long overdue update. And thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.